We need close air support at grid 7942 now. They're getting slaughtered down there. The radio crackles with desperation, voices overlapping in the Tactical Operations Center. Outside, the Afghan sun hammers down on Bagram airfield, heat waves distorting the distant mountains. Inside the briefing room, Colonel Daniels slams his hand on the desk, scanning the flight roster with growing frustration. "Who've we got in the air?" he barks. "Viper 3-1 is Winchester on ammunition," someone responds. "Hawk 2 is RTB with hydraulic issues. We've got the operations officer hesitates, checking the board. We've got Warthog 7, sir, about 15 minutes out." "Who's flying it?" "Lieutenant Rourke, sir." The colonel's jaw tightens. "The Academy washout? The one they sent here because she couldn't hack it in fighters?" "She's qualified on the A-10, sir." "Christ." Daniels grabs the radio. "Warthog 7, this is Bulldog Actual. You're being diverted for immediate CS." "How copy?" Static. Then a calm, steady voice cuts through. "Bulldog Actual, Warthog 7. Good copy. Send coordinates." There's something in that voice, no hesitation, no uncertainty, just readiness. But Daniels doesn't hear it. He only hears another pilot he doesn't trust with his Marines' lives. 6 months earlier, Captain Valeria Rourke had stood in another office, at another base, facing another disappointed superior officer. "You don't have the instincts," her squadron commander had said, not unkindly. "Fighter pilots need to think in 3 dimensions at Mach speeds. You're competent, Rourke, but competent gets people killed up there." The words had landed like body blows. 4 years at the academy. 3 years of advanced training. Hundreds of hours in simulators and trainer aircraft. All of it leading to this moment. Being told she didn't belong in the cockpit she'd dreamed of since she was 8 years old. Watching Thunderbird's knife through the sky above her father's change of command ceremony. "We're reassigning you to A-10s, he'd continued. "Close air support. It's important work, and frankly, it might be a better fit. The Warthog's a forgiving aircraft, slower, more straightforward. Translation, where you can't hurt yourself or others." She'd requested the transfer to Afghanistan immediately. If she couldn't fly fast, she'd fly where it mattered, where she could prove that competent was exactly what Marines on the ground needed. But the reputation followed her. The fighter pilot who couldn't cut it. The academy graduate flying the military's ugliest, slowest combat aircraft. Every briefing she felt the skepticism radiating from the other pilots. Every mission she heard the unspoken question, what's she doing here? What they didn't know, what they never asked about, were the 300 hours she'd spent in her grandfather's crop duster as a kid, learning to feel aircraft through her hands, reading wind and weight and the invisible language of lift. They didn't know about the thousands of hours she'd logged studying close air support doctrine, learning to think like an infantryman, understanding how battles looked from mud level. They saw a failure. She saw an opportunity. Now, racing toward grid 7942 at 300 knots, Valeria pulls up the tactical display. The situation crystallizes instantly in her mind. A Marine patrol call sign Viking 23 had pushed into a valley to investigate reports of Taliban movement. They'd found it, all right. Found it waiting for them. The valley was a kill box, with insurgent positions dug into the ridgelines on 3 sides. The Marines were pinned in the open, taking fire from multiple directions, with casualties mounting and no clear route of withdrawal. Standard close air support doctrine says to establish radio contact with the ground commander, get a detailed brief on friendly and enemy positions, coordinate with any other aircraft in the area, and approach the target from a safe angle that gives you maximum standoff distance. Valeria does the math in 3 seconds. By the time she follows doctrine, half those Marines will be dead. Viking 2-3, Warthog 7. I'm 5 minutes out. I need a fast brief friendlies, enemies, immediate threats. The voice that responds is tight with strain, punctuated by gunfire. Warthog 7, we're pinned at the north end of the valley, approximately 50 meters from the ridgeline. Enemy positions all along the eastern and western ridges, dug in good. We've got 3 urgent casualties and can't maneuver. They're getting ready to rush us. Viking, I need you to pop smoke on your position. Warthog, if I pop smoke, they'll know exactly where we are. They already know where you are. I need to know where you are. Red smoke now. A pause. Then, Roger, popping red. Valeria brings the A-10 down to 8,000 feet, eyes scanning the brown and gray landscape below. There a thin stream of red smoke rising from the valley floor, and their muzzle flashes dotting the ridge lines like fireflies. The tactical situation is worse than she thought. The Marines are completely exposed. The insurgent positions form a perfect crossfire. Any approach she makes will put her directly in the engagement zone, well within range of small arms fire, and possibly man-pad, man-portable air defense systems. She can practically hear her instructors' voices. Never fly into an ambush. Stand off, use your sensors, engage from distance. But distance won't save those Marines. They need someone willing to get close. To get ugly. Bulldog Actual, Warthog 7. Situation is critical. I'm going in for gun runs on the ridge positions. Colonel Daniels' voice explodes over the radio. Negative, Warthog 7. Establish a safe orbit and coordinate with Sir with respect. Those Marines don't have time for safe. I'm engaging. Rourke, I am ordering you to... She switches frequencies. Sometimes forgiveness is easier than permission. The A-10 Thunderbolt II, affectionately called the Warthog, is not a beautiful aircraft. It's not fast or sleek or intimidating from a distance. It looks like something designed by engineers who forgot to consult artists. A straight wing, a bulbous cockpit, two massive engines mounted high on the fuselage, and a 30mm GAU-8 Avenger cannon that's essentially a flying gun with an aircraft built around it. But at low altitude, coming in fast, it's the most terrifying thing an enemy combatant can see. Valeria pushes the stick forward, diving toward the eastern ridge. The altimeter unwinds rapidly. 6,000, 5,000, 4,000 feet. Tracers start reaching up toward her. Green streaks in the afternoon light. Something pings off the fuselage, barely audible over the engine roar. The A-10 was built for this titanium bathtub around the cockpit. Redundant systems, able to fly home missing half a wing. But knowing that intellectually and trusting it while watching bullets track toward you are two different things. She doesn't flinch. At 2,000 feet, she pulls up slightly, acquiring the muzzle flashes in her heads-up display. The targeting reticle dances across enemy positions dug into the rocky hillside. She can see the now fighting positions reinforced with sandbags, at least a dozen insurgents visible. Her thumb finds the trigger. The GAU-8 cannon erupts with a sound that defies description, a deep, ripping roar that resonates through the airframe. The aircraft shudders, actually decelerating slightly from the recoil. 70 rounds per second of depleted uranium tear through the ridgeline, each round the size of a beer bottle traveling at 3,000 feet per second. The effect is instantaneous and catastrophic. Rock and dirt explode in a line of destruction marching across the enemy position. Bodies and equipment are pulverized, thrown, obliterated. She pulls hard on the stick, braking left, gaining altitude. Gay forces press her into the seat, the horizon tumbling. More tracers follow, but she's already gone, arcing around for another pass. Viking 2-3, how copy on Eastern Ridge? Warthog 7, the Marine's voice is filled with something between shock and reverence. That's good effects, good effects. Western Ridge is still hot. Repeat, Western Ridge engaging. Valeria doesn't acknowledge. She's already rolling in on the western side, setting up for a run that will take her even lower, even closer. The insurgents there have seen what happened to their comrades. They're ready for her now. Every weapon pointed skyward. This is the moment her fighter instructor would have called suicide. Flying directly into prepared enemy positions at low altitude. This is the moment Valeria has been preparing for her entire life. She comes in from the south this time, using a slight ridge for concealment until the last moment. When she pops up, she's less than 1,000 feet above the ground, close enough to see individual figures scrambling for cover. Too late. The cannon roars again, but this time she walks the fire deliberately along the ridgeline, taking her time, making every burst count. She can feel the aircraft vibrating, hear the spent casings ejecting, see the tracers every fifth round marking her path of destruction. Something impacts the right engine. The fire warning light illuminates. The engine temperature gauge spikes red. She ignores it, holding the trigger down for another second. Another long burst, ensuring the position is neutralized. Only then does she pull up, banking hard, checking the damage. The right engine is running rough but still producing power. Oil pressure is dropping. She'll need to shut it down soon, but not yet. Not while Marines are still in contact.
Viking 2-3, Western Ridge neutralized. I'm making a third pass on the northern positions, danger close. Warthog, we're taking fire from the valley mouth too. They're trying to block our exfil. Of course they are. This wasn't a chance encounter.
This was planned, coordinated. And she's flown right into the middle of it, exactly where she needs to be. Viking, can you move? Affirmative. If we can get suppression on that blocking force. Roger, 60 seconds. Get your casualties ready to move. Valeria checks her ammunition counter. 400 rounds remaining. The blocking force will be dispersed, harder to target. She'll need to get even closer, make every round count. Her right engine coughs, the fire warning insistent now. Smoke is starting to trail from the cowling. She switches the radio back to Daniel's frequency. Bulldog actual, Warthog 7. I've got battle damage, one engine compromised. Continuing mission. Rourke, you are ordered to RTB immediately. After I get these Marines out, sir. She doesn't wait for his response. The valley mouth is a narrow defile, maybe 50 meters wide, with the blocking force positioned in rocks on both sides. The perfect ambush position for the Taliban. The worst possible target for close air support. Her margin for error is measured in feet. Her grandfather's voice echoes in memory. An aircraft is just a tool, Val. It goes where you point it, does what you tell it. The question is always whether you've got the nerve and the skill to point it at the right place. She points the A-10 directly into the defile. The insurgents see her coming. Every weapon opens up AC-47s, PKM machine guns, even an RPG that corkscrews past her canopy. The air is thick with tracers. Something punches through the left wing. Another round spiders the armored glass directly in front of her face. She doesn't blink. At 500 feet, barely above the ridgelines, she opens fire. The cannon chews through the right side of the blocking position, then the left. Methodical as a lawnmower, destructive as an earthquake. Rock splinters, weapons fly apart. The ambush disintegrates. Viking, you're clear. Move now. Moving. Only then does Valeria shut down the dying right engine, pulling away from the valley with one engine trailing black smoke and her hydraulic pressure dropping. The A-10 shudders, fighting her, but it flies. Damaged, battered, but still flying. Like her. 20 minutes later, she coaxes the wounded Warthog onto Bagram's runway with one engine, partial hydraulics, and a dozen holes in the fuselage. Firefighters chase her down the taxiway, foam ready. She shuts down on the apron, hands shaking now that the adrenaline is fading. Through the cracked canopy glass, she sees a crowd gathering. Ground crews, maintenance officers, other pilots, and Colonel Daniels storming across the tarmac, his face red. She pops the canopy, starting her post-flight checks even as he arrives.
Lieutenant Rourke!
His voice could strip paint. You directly disobeyed my order. You, sir. Another voice, quieter but carrying authority. A staff sergeant in dusty combat gear, his uniform still stained with blood. Behind him, more Marines, moving with the careful stiffness of men who've been in close combat. The sergeant looks up at Valeria in the cockpit. Ma'am, I'm Staff Sergeant Locke, Viking 2-3 actual. She climbs down, legs unsteady. The sergeant extends his hand. Ma'am, we had 3 urgent casualties and were 60 seconds from being overrun when you showed up. You saved 16 Marines today. His grip is firm, his eyes intense. I don't know what that colonel's problem is, but every one of my Marines owes you their life. You flew into hell for us, on purpose. The other Marines nod, some of them openly emotional. One young lance corporal is crying, not bothering to hide it. Daniels opens his mouth, then closes it. He looks at the damaged A-10, at the Marines, at Valeria standing there with oil and smoke stains on her flight suit and spiderwebbed glass fragments in her hair. How did you know? He asks finally. How did you know you could pull that off? Valeria thinks about her answer. About every hour in her grandfather's crop duster, learning to thread between power lines and tree lines. About the academy instructors who said she didn't have the right instincts. About being sent to fly the Warthog as a consolation prize. I didn't know, sir, but they needed someone to try. The investigation takes 3 days. Valeria spends them grounded, writing reports, reliving every second in official statements. The fighter pilots avoid her, uncertain whether she's about to be court-martialed or decorated. The Marines don't avoid her. They find her in the chow hall, at the gym, walking between buildings. Always a nod, a word, a quiet, "Thank you, ma'am." Staff Sergeant Locke brings his whole platoon by to shake her hand. On the 4th day, she's called to Colonel Daniels' office. He's not alone. There's a general present, 2 stars, and several other senior officers. The atmosphere is formal, weighted. "Lieutenant Rourke." Daniels' voice is different now. Careful. "General Hoffman wanted to speak with you." The general steps forward. "Lieutenant, I've reviewed the tactical recordings, read the after-action reports, and interviewed the Marines you extracted. I've also consulted with our most experienced close air support instructors about what you did that day." Here it comes, Valeria thinks. The reprimand for breaking protocol, for disobeying orders. "Their consensus," the general continues, "is that what you accomplished should have been impossible. The approach angles, the altitude, the precision required while taking enemy fire. Several instructors initially refused to believe one pilot had done all of it alone." He pauses, holding her gaze. "But you did do it. You flew a textbook close air support mission in circumstances that defied every textbook. You saved 16 lives. And you did it in an aircraft that many pilots consider beneath them, showing exactly why the A-10 and pilots like you are irreplaceable." The general reaches into his pocket. "Lieutenant Valeria Rourke, it is my honor to present you with the Distinguished Flying Cross for extraordinary achievement while participating in aerial flight." He pins the medal on her uniform, then steps back and salutes. Valeria returns the salute, stunned. Colonel Daniels clears his throat. "There's more, Lieutenant. Effective immediately. You're being reassigned as the primary close air support instructor for this theater. Every pilot rotating through will train with you. Every ground combat team will know your call sign." He pauses. "I was wrong about you. I saw what you couldn't do and missed what you could. That won't happen again." After the ceremony, after the handshakes and the formal photographs, Valeria walks back across the flight line. The damaged A-10 is in the maintenance hangar, already being repaired. The crew chief sees her coming and grins. "She'll fly again, ma'am. Tough bird. Like her pilot." Valeria runs her hand along the titanium fuselage, feeling the patches where bullets hit, the scored metal where fragments struck. The aircraft that no one wanted. The aircraft that everyone underestimated. Just like her. 3 weeks later, she leads her first training sortie. 8 pilots, including 3 from fighter squadrons, sit in the briefing room, listening as she breaks down close air support doctrine. "The Warthog isn't sexy," she tells them. "It's not fast. It won't make you famous. But when Marines are dying in a valley with their backs against the wall, when they need someone willing to fly low and get dirty and risk everything to bring them home, that's when we matter. That's when we're everything." She clicks to the next slide, showing grid 7942 from multiple angles. "This is the valley where I learned what this aircraft can really do, what we can really do. Not by flying above the fight, by flying into it." One pilot raises his hand. "Ma'am, isn't that basically suicide?" Valeria smiles. "Only if you don't know what you're doing. That's why you're here. To learn." Over the next 6 months, Valeria trains 42 pilots in advanced close air support tactics. She develops new approaches to danger-close engagements, writes field manuals that become standard doctrine, and flies another 37 combat missions, each one bringing troops home alive. The Marines petition to have her call sign officially recognized. Warthog 7 becomes legendary. When troops hear that call sign, they know salvation is inbound. The fighter pilots stop avoiding her. Some of them transfer to A-10s, wanting to learn from her, understanding finally that there are different kinds of excellence in the air. Colonel Daniels puts her in for promotion to captain ahead of schedule. In his recommendation, he writes, "LT, Rourke represents the finest traditions of military aviation, not through individual glory, but through selfless service to those on the ground. She has proven that in war, what matters is not the speed of your aircraft, but the courage of your heart. 1 year after the Valley, Valeria stands in another briefing room, but this time she's the one giving the mission brief. Staff Sergeant Locke is there now, Gunnery Sergeant Locke, along with his platoon, preparing for another patrol into contested territory. "We'll be overhead the entire time," she tells them. "You won't see us, but we'll be there. And if things go sideways, you know what we'll do." "Fly into hell, ma'am," one Marine responds. "On purpose." "Exactly right." After they file out, Locke lingers. "Ma'am, the boys wanted me to give you something." He hands her a patch handmade showing a warthog diving through flames with the words "into hell and back" stitched around it. "They say you've got 16 brothers in the Marines now, ma'am. Anywhere, anytime. You need us. We're there." Valeria studies the patch, feeling its weight. This is what she'd wanted all those years ago, watching Thunderbirds perform their choreographed perfection. Not the glory, not the speed. This the knowledge that when it mattered most, she'd been exactly where she needed to be, doing exactly what she was born to do. That night, flying over Afghanistan's dark mountains, she thinks about the instructor who said she didn't have the instincts for fighters. He was right. She didn't have the instincts for flying fast and alone and perfect. She had the instincts for flying slow and close and saving lives. The radio crackles. "Warthog 7, Bulldog actual. We have troops in contact. Grid 8735. How copy?" Valeria checks her fuel, her weapons, her systems. Everything green. "Bulldog actual, Warthog 7. Good copy. Rolling in." She pushes the stick forward, diving toward the grid coordinates. Toward the sound of gunfire and desperation. Toward Marines who need someone willing to fly into an ambush. On purpose. The ugly, slow, underestimated Warthog drops out of the night sky like a guardian angel wrapped in titanium, and Valeria Rourke smiles. This is where she belongs. If you have enjoyed the story, tell YouTube to send you more stories like this by subscribing to this channel, liking the video, and leaving a comment.